Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Oklahoma City Sports Network. I am the Cowboy Crab, and now joined by Brian. How's it going, Brian?
Just chilling, just chilling. Thanks for having me back.
All right, good to have you back. We got a lot to talk about in today's episode. We got our week 2 recap, half the weekly recap as usual. We got some trades to talk about. Big Twisters news afterwards to talk about. We'll get into that when we get to that. And we got our week 3 preview, which when we get there, it's going to be real interesting with how we currently look. But before we get into all of that, we got to go to our week 2 recap. So let's start with the statistics. We'll start with the Twisters. Bailey, 18 for 32, 403 passing yards, a 56.3 completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, and 2 rushing touchdowns for Bailey.
Yeah, I mean, not to spoil the bad news, but I guess that doesn't really matter anymore much, does it?
No, with regards to future news, we'll get to that in a little bit, but for a return game, it's not a terrible stat line. Receiving core, you got Reaver, 4 receptions, 118 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Pocho, 3 receptions, 57 receiving yards. BTD, 6 receptions, 108 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Drag Me in the Wood with a reception for 17 receiving yards and a touchdown. And Samuel with 4 receptions, 103 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. So you have 3 out of your 5 receivers breaking 100 receiving yards that game. Big day for those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on to center, J. Vick, out of his 8 drives, he only let up a sack. And at defense, J. Vick had a tackle for loss, and Samuel had 3 picks. So Samuel, he was cooking on the defensive side of the ball against the Aztecs. Safe to say, 3 interceptions. I think that's the highest I've ever seen in a single game for a single player.
Very, very impressive showing by Samuel. Very, very good, especially because the defense is, as you say a lot, Crab. It's
the weak link of the Twisters.
Yeah.
All right, and looking at the Aztecs, Kamari 14 for 26, 420 passing yards, nice, and 53.9 completion percentage, 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Receiving core, you have Hot Eye with 2 receptions, 86 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Solskjaer, 4 receptions, 102 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Voltic, a reception for 12 yards. And I Got Rich with a reception for 5 yards and a touchdown. Ryu, 4 receptions, 148 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Red Religious, 2 receptions, 67 receiving yards, and a touchdown. So almost everybody in the Aztecs receiving core got a touchdown except for Voltic. So, Kamara was just getting the ball around to everybody that game.
Oh, yeah. That's what you like to see, though, if you're a fan of the Aztecs. It's a little bit kind of like what obviously very, very different, but kind of like what Redcliffe did to us, just kind of getting the ball to everyone.
Indeed. Also, at center, you had Fat Religious, out of his 9 drives, he let up a tackle for loss. And at defense, Trippy got a sack. So that's your statistics for the Aztecs-Twisters game. And the Twisters, they got the bounce-back win they were looking for. Now 1-1 heading into Week 3. But first, before we get into Week 3, we've got some trades to talk about. We also got another thing to talk about. So for the trade-wise, on the 14th, you had 2 trades, Twisters and Freedom. Twisters got Javik, and Freedom got Ghosts and Soul Swings. So I think that's how that trade worked. And then you also had Twisters getting Alad World and Growler's Coup. So yeah, those 2 trades happened on the 14th. And then later on that day, you had a huge trade. It was Twisters and Greats. Twisters, you got Keybinder, Nate, Walking, Void, Kamari, Colder, and Braid. And the Greats get Reaver and Intaged.
Yeah.
The big headlines for that day.
Yeah, pretty big trades. I think we still have like a couple to go over here.
Yeah.
But you know, just to put these big moves in perspective, I mean, like definitely a whole different team.
Yep. And still got some more or trades to talk about. She had one trade get void. Javik refused to play for the Greats, so the trade with the Greats and Twisters did not happen. But you
Mhm.
did have another trade. You had the big trade with the Punishers, Josiah, Michi, M13, Riskigo, and Maha to the Twisters, and Ignite, Javik, and Abdul to the Punishers.
Mhm.
One of the big headlines from yesterday. But as of today, part of that trade is taken back a little bit as Josiah went back to the Punishers and the Twisters received Mickey and Mr. Debbie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That definitely a busy day or a busy week, I guess overall.
yeah.
Um,
And also, just another thing before we get to the big headline, there was beef going on between Twisters and Vikings in the franchise announcements to OFL.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That you want to talk about tension between rivals. I mean, you just got to go back and look to like the 16th, and like you will see. Like
Yeah, definitely deep shots taken at one another. It's
you're
definitely
gonna walk
becoming one.
week 6 is gonna be interesting if this keeps up. But of course, we got the big news to talk about that happened yesterday at I don't know what was it. What time did it officially happen?
Yesterday.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yesterday It was officially announced. Hang on, let me just check real quick.
Are you referring to the suspension?
Yep. It's 9:36 on the 17th. Okay, so 2 days ago, Bailey was suspended until season 40 for possession of exploits and alt knowledge. This is a big blow to the Twisters. I can't lie. This is the biggest blow I think we've felt all so far.
Yeah, that's a beefy suspension too. What is that? 3 seasons?
That is till season 40.
Jesus.
That is yes, 3 seasons. This is 37. So
So I mean, we'll see him around this time next year unless he's free.
unless you're able to fight the suspension and get slighter sentence or whatever. But in some, but also you got now a question around the week 3 as who is going to be the starting quarterback. That is definitely going to be a big thing. However, in positive news,
Yeah.
from a scrim last night, we got a results in here from Parker, who now the interim head coach, so serving as franchise owner, interim head coach, and as of last night, he was the quarterback. So that's how his drive went. Well, the scrimmage went. Threw a touchdown the first drive. Second drive was a wide receiver error interception. Third drive was the one-play touchdown to Samuel. Then a defensive interception. Fourth drive was a back end zone touchdown. Fifth drive, back end zone touchdown. So, along with 2 defensive stops. So, chemistry-wise, I mean, it's sounding like the chemistry has not died off yet. But I think the real test is going to be in this week 3 game.
Yeah, I definitely like to say I believe it's likely going to be Parker going to play quarterback this week. Now, in my opinion, now I mean it's just like what has to be done. I mean it's pretty hard to trade for a quarterback, and you know, as we just read the results, Parker looked great, but you know, you never just want your franchise owner to abruptly come in. Right. He already is doing enough, and and then for him to have to abruptly come in, I mean, literally that was his first 2 scrims, and the game's likely going to be in like a couple days.
Yep. So
Um,
this
that,
is.
that's yeah, it's not a situation that you ever want to be in. So that's why I would be in favor if we were to start looking for. I know I keep saying it, but or well at least I say it's a crab because last week that this wasn't the.
Wasn't a thing we needed to discuss because we thought we'd had our quarterback back. Next thing you know, he's suspended for 3 seasons.
Yeah, so it's gonna. I'll say it like this, and I'll probably get quoted for it, because I don't know if it's something that someone's realized. But so far, after this next week's game, we're gonna have more quarterbacks than we've had wins. Um,
Yeah,
so
3.
that's not.
We were gonna have as many quarterbacks as games played.
Yeah. So that's never a situation. And before the season, that's not something that you think ever was. And I'll tell you one thing. I'm kind of disappointed that we traded Reaver. I mean, that's really something I want to work out, and I really thought would have really brought that. It would have. I just wish we gave more time to play out. Now I understand there's probably more that Nye than I knew about. Like, probably wasn't happy with how the team's been playing. And I think he really wanted Will or Integ to QB. That was another thing I heard. But, that's kind of disappointing. But still a very solid team overall. And I definitely I'm not saying their season's over because it's not. Because I think even if Parker was the quarterback, we still could put together a playoff run. But again, Parker hasn't. You know, it's definitely been a decent minute, and that's it's not. It's just overall not the way you want it all to play out. And you know what? I personally, I don't think this is the appropriate place to deem whether we all think Bailey's guilty or not. So we're not gonna get into that, or at least I'm not.
I don't feel like it because I have no thoughts on it whatsoever because I had zero idea about any of it.
I mean, yeah, I did too. I had no idea, and I just, obviously, I'll be on his side until the verdict comes out, because no one wants their MVP, 2-time MVP quarterback getting suspended for 3 seasons. That's not fun, and really overall, just the franchise guy. I mean, that's what this team was built off of. Was literally the head coach. And, it's one of the lowest blows that you'll ever take, and you're almost just kind of wondering when the Twister faithful is gonna get a break this season.
Yeah, any season where it looked like he'd be moving on from to a new quarterback, he'd always come back to reprise his role. Season 35 looked like we were moving on to Kelvin, and he was gone by, I believe, I think he was gone after week 2. Traded, and Bailey and Samuel come back to the Twisters. Season 36. No, it's not. Season 36 is the one I'm thinking of where we had Kelvin. Week 1, we looked like Intage was going to be the new starting quarterback for us. Didn't do a great opening start. Bailey comes in week 2, gets us a win. Now week 3, the franchise owner is having to step up back into quarterback. And how do we see him doing in week 3? How do we see this team doing in week 3? I'm not 100% sure. Originally, even with Bailey, and I had this feeling this was going to be a tough matchup going up against the Empire State Sentinels. Led by Relly.
And I not to cut you off, but I want to add another important point. Like we're not crybabies, because there definitely is a sense of holding ourselves accountable. For example, as a 2-time MVP, should you be going out there and, I mean, if you really are guilty, having some exploits on you, and, I mean, whoever whoever he had knowledge of. I think it's in the suspensions because I think they were suspended right after. But I'm not gonna get that deep into it. But should he have probably just turned him in? Probably. And I understand. Don't want to be a L man's or anything, but when I mean, and overall, uh, should he have just ended up probably quarterbacking week 1 after being so willing to come back week 2? Probably, but I also understand he probably didn't think that we would be in such a desperate state.
After the week
And then
one
overall,
shutout, basically.
right, right, and then overall, just could we have probably taken a little bit of a different approach on the season regarding to our week 1 loss and how we played in that? I mean, I just feel like it wasn't. I just like the effort was all there from Redcliffe that week, and really nowhere to be found for us. So that's my questions about it, really, or that's my statement about it. Is there's definitely senses of holding ourselves accountable, and those are definitely serious ones that we need to hold ourselves accountable for.
Definitely, but as for week 3, we gotta do our preview on it. So week 3, we still got some of our key pieces. We still got Samuel, BTD still on the roster. So, and I think added the new pieces from the trade coming in. So it's gonna be like a new team again, but you still got some of your core guys, and of course Parker now I'd say most definitely your starting quarterback for week 3, unless something else happens after this episode. I'd say Parker is most definitely going to be starting for week 3, but he's still going to have. But he's still going to have Samuel, which he is the big part of this Twisters offense. It's not the quarterback. BTD is still around, and he's done good so far here in the Twisters organization. I hope he sticks around with us, sticks through the tough times.
Yeah.
For at least this season, because we still got. I think this week 3 is going to show us if we are still at least these contenders, or if the suspensions and having a good amount of the players wanting to leave that do end up leaving affect us more. So this is going to be the true who is this team a contender week game. And of course, doesn't help going up to Empire State, not playing here at home here in well, actually no, we are playing here at home in Oklahoma City. It's week 2 we didn't. Okay, so I think I got two. There's gonna most likely it's gonna be 2 outcomes. One is gonna be a back and forth, hard fought game, and somehow, some way, maybe a last effort drive from Parker, or the defense gets a stop on Relly somehow, and the Twisters win, or Sentinels, they come in and they are efficient, and there's nothing that the Twisters can do to stop them, and the offense is able to do stuff, but they're not able to do enough, and the Sentinels get the win. Those are the only 2 outcomes that I can see happening. So
Yeah.
this is gonna be a interesting game this week.
Yeah, regarding this game, it's. I mean, I believe we thought we were in a pretty bad situation last week. Somehow,
it's actually gotten worse.
Yeah, it's not even gonna water it down. It got very worse. Because not trying to dwell on it, but you just can't go out there as our franchise guy, our head coach, the 2-time MVP, one of the best quarterbacks in the league after 1 week. Missed week 1, by the way.
At the quarterback position, missed week 1. He was tight end.
Right. And then go out there and get suspended. I mean, that's such a heartbreaker. And again, no thoughts will be, distributed here. Obviously, I support Bailey until the verdict's out. But this game, I said last week. I said last week that I don't bias here. I call it when I see it. Okay. Um, honestly, my thoughts are the Sentinels. They've just clicking on all cylinders both week 1 and 2. They have no excuse to do anything short this next week. Now I'm not gonna say it's a blowout, so the situation I could see unfolding here is, maybe a couple, and I understand that's what the scrimmages are for, but it's different when the clock's running and the clock's staying still for a scrimmage, so keep that in mind. They're two different things. I feel like there will just be a little bit of a blemish in the offense in terms of trying to find their groove altogether. The filing in the third quarterback in a row for the third straight game.
Yep, new quarterback every week. Definitely not something you want to see.
So it's all I'm saying is I do think the Sentinels will win. And that sucks for a couple reasons. Because of one, how Crab just described it, what this game really means. And, I mean, so look, as I said, I'll call it when I see it. The Sentinels are a pretty good team. I would say probably more than pretty good, but, people have their opinions. But the point that I'm getting at here is I see the first couple of drives on offense being very slow. Not saying that I don't have faith in them, but it's just if you watch football, you know what it is. It's going to take time for chemistry to grow. And, that was the blessing with Bailey coming back, because it's not like there was a completely new quarterback coming in to the locker room. Like, he's been there. So it's not like everyone's got to get used to it. And, unfortunately, he strikes. And, this time around, weren't as fortunate.
Yeah.
Now, I know Parker's quarterbacked before for the Twisters. He was telling us about it.
I think he says last game was week 8 against the Firecats of season 33.
Something like that, and he carried with King Chesta as his wide receiver 1. So, I definitely, and by the way, I definitely see that's my guy. Like, I definitely see him having, like, a pretty good game. I would say, and that none of this is to his fault either. But as I said, I have to call a loss when I see it. It just sucks that all this had to strike the week of playing a very talented team. It's just the luggage.
Yep.
Okay, I mean, and again, this will be my last time talking about it, but again, holding yourself accountable. You got to understand with as big of a season as it is, and probably the best roster that the Twisters organization's ever seen. On paper, what could have been one of the best rosters of all time, in my opinion. That might sound crazy, but look down the line. At one point, it was, what was it? BTD, Reaver, Sammy.
Bailey.
I mean, and then, all those dudes. And then we had Bailey as a +1 at tight end. Like, it was crazy.
Yep. But
now
we're in the situation where we're at.
Right, and you got to claw your way out of it. So I could see another situation opening up. I definitely am open to it, where that's the way that they go into it feeling. The Twisters, I mean. If our guys go in there and they're like, well, we got to claw our way out of this mess, let's just do it. And they go in there, they ball, they stay on their toes and, play defense very well. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even say defense is the main concern this week. I'd keep my eyes more on the offense this week.
Definitely. I think more people are concerned about how the offense is going to be this week. Especially me. I normally talk about how defense is always weak link, but when you're going to have another new quarterback, You got new pieces coming in from trade. You got people leaving, wanting out after their star quarterback was suspended for 3 seasons. Yeah, this is a new era of Twisters football.
Yeah, and I hope it doesn't sound crazy that I pick a loss here because listen what just came out of Crab's mouth. I mean, those are rough conditions to have to go in with and play with. Like that like and look, it's not even to Parker's fault and it's not I can't say it's on no one's fault because there's definitely someone to blame. Maybe not for the week 1 loss, maybe the chemistry just wasn't there or whatever. But I mean, like, you know, like the news that we got 2 nights ago, that really sucked.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, it definitely sucks more talking about it than when I was first hearing about it. Because the circumstances are definitely much worse. And now backs are against the wall. And it's rough. It's definitely rough. So I mean they have to excuse me. They have to fight for the Twisters' name and you know just do what they all do best because it's definitely still a pretty good roster.
Yep.
So but excuse me. You know, we gotta do something. That's my thoughts.
Alright, well, I didn't give my official prediction, but I think I'm in the same boat as you here, Brian. I think you run this match back like several times over in more situations. I think you're definitely the Sentinels are going to win this game. But I mean, as always, Twisters, they got the set. They have an opportunity to upset. It's always a possibility, but I think the more likely scenario is the Sentinels are going to get a win. Minimum, I'm thinking at minimum a 1-possession game. At maximum, I think maybe like a 3-4 possession game at maximum. I don't think they're going to get farther than that. I think we're definitely still going to give them a fight. But if it gets to the point where it's like the Raiders game, I think 3-4 possessions is maximum for the Sentinels beating us. But we do got one last quick thing. Current standings wise, after our week 1 win, we got boosted up to seconds in the points division, only behind the Bruisers, ahead of the Aztecs, Vikings, and that other team that's 0-2.
That's right.
I refuse to call them by their name until they actually start being a competitive football team and stop being the doormat of the LFL. However, they are not the biggest legacy of failure in the LFL, as that belongs to another team who I will also not currently name, but you can figure it out for yourself.
But yeah, you know, definitely wasn't my favorite episode to film, and you know, having to, you know, share the news, and obviously I never wanted to come out here and predict the Twisters' loss. And honestly, I'm 100% honest with you. Okay, Bailey doesn't get suspended. I'm probably out here predicting the Twisters win.
I think I'm in the same boat as you. I'm thinking in the unofficial game of the week, Bailey doesn't get suspended. I mean, Bailey versus Relly, a regular season, that's a game. That is much-watch OFL football right there.
Yeah. I would definitely also say, like, to add on to that, Parker, he's no Nathan Peterman. Like, he's definitely talented, you know. So it's not like we're getting.
It's not like we're going from like freaking. It's not like we're going from like Josh Allen to what's a crappy backup quarterback currently in the NFL.
Let's go with Tyrod Taylor.
I wouldn't say Tyrod Taylor's a bad quarterback. I think he's always injured.
Yeah. He is all right for what he is.
Yeah. You know, I'm just going to say it because he's the only backup quarterback. It's not like we're going from like Josh Allen to Brian Hoyer. It's not like that. I'd say it's more of like a Josh Allen to Gardner Minshew, like good quarterback, but just not one of the best in the league. I think that's probably the best way I can describe it. It's like it's a downgrade, but it's not a terrible downgrade.
Yeah, I think, and it's not. You know what I said earlier, but it's not a completely brand new. Kind.
It's not like we're going completely new again at quarterback. We're working with some familiarity here.
It's definitely it's been a minute, so
yeah,
kinda, but
I think I've gotten all I've got to say about everything we've had to discuss in this episode. Brian, you got any closing thoughts for us before we wrap it up here?
Really all I gotta say is it's still Twisters on top. Still Twist. Oh, by the way, if you're bored, if you're listening to this, go vote for the Twisters Stadium to host the Victory Bowl.
Alright, well, that is it here for us on the Oklahoma City Sports Network. We had a very interesting episode here today. We had a lot to talk about, but we will wrap it up here for you folks. Representing the Oklahoma City Sports Network, I am the Cowboy Crab.
This is Justin Fields Goat. Later.
You're the analyst for today's episode of the Oklahoma City Sports Network, saying so long, everybody.